Yet another well-established show we cover on this channel is coming to a close. But maybe, just maybe, when one door closes, another dangerous one will open. Hello everybody, I'm Kate Cass, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about DuckTales. Kind of. Last time we talked about DuckTales, it was in my review of the big special episode, Let's Get Dangerous, which you can check out right up there if you haven't seen it yet, or watch it again. You can watch YouTube videos more than once. The episode featured the Reboot's incarnation of Darkwing Duck in an epic adventure that people are still geeking out about. There was a lot of buzz around this episode, and not just for the episode itself, but the certain feeling the whole adventure gave off. This latest outing with DW and the gang has led to a lot of speculation on whether or not this could be a backdoor pilot for Darkwing to get a reboot of his own. So today, I want to go over what evidence there is to support this.
Talk about Seth Rogen.
And speculate a bit on what a
Disney put Seth Rogen in charge of the Darkwing reboot?
Modern Darkwing Duck series would look like.
They're putting Darkwing Duck in Sausage Party 2?
Okay, so clearly there's something we need to address about this topic before we can go any further. A few weeks ago, on November 13th, Variety posted an article saying that a Darkwing Duck reboot was in production for Disney Plus with Seth Rogen as executive producer. This set off a lot of alarm bells among fans, especially since none of the DuckTales creative team were mentioned in the article. But that's because no creative team was mentioned in the article. This whole thing is insanely vague, and I wouldn't put too much stock in it, honestly. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one since, thankfully, YouTuber Shaunicus and the people over at the Duck Talks podcast have already broken down why this news should really be taken with a shaker of salt. I'll link to both the video and article respectively in the description. All I'll say about it is that if everything we know so far is legitimate, it's still not much to be concerned about to me. And it doesn't mean the people who created the DuckTales version of Darkwing Duck are not or couldn't be involved. Also, if Seth Rogen is involved, he's executive producer, which means nothing. So to anybody freaking out about this bit of news, I just want to say,
relax.
As far as I can find, nothing concerning Darkwing Duck has been confirmed by Disney themselves, which means there's still quite a bit we can theorize about. And I think there's a fair amount of evidence to suggest that Let's Get Dangerous could have at least been constructed to be a potential backdoor pilot. For those who aren't familiar with this concept, a backdoor pilot is commonly an episode of an existing series focused around characters or scenarios that are attempting to build a spin-off series. Sometimes they are based around characters not even featured on the show, but most of the time they are. Shows like All in the Family and the Arrowverse did this with great success, and shows like The Office and Phineas and Ferb did not. But boy, Phineas and Ferb sure did try. Anyway, Let's Get Dangerous already stands out in this regard by being almost entirely focused on the daring duck of mystery. The DuckTales characters are present and contribute, but there's no question who the star of the show is here. The DuckTales character who features the most in this episode is Launchpad, a character that the original Darkwing Duck inherited from the original DuckTales. While Drake has been a featured character on DuckTales 2017 a couple times before, Let's Get Dangerous not only dedicates most of its runtime to establishing things about the Darkwing Duck world and cast, like Goslin and Drake's superhero routine, but the runtime is doubled.
The fun has been doubled!
Outside of the pilot episode, this is the only hour-long episode of DuckTales that's not a season finale. That alone is pretty sus. Add to that the fact that Disney put the entire episode up on their XD YouTube channel, which is not that unusual. There are several full episodes of Disney shows, animated or live action, on their YouTube channels, but this is the only episode of DuckTales outside of the pilot to get that treatment. And for their modern shows in the 2010s, usually the only episode they put out there for free is the first episode of a show. You can tell the creative team were very excited about promoting Let's Get Dangerous, getting much more media coverage than the typical DuckTales episode, including Drake's DuckTales debut in The Duck Knight Returns, which kinda came out of nowhere at the time. Why would there be such coverage and accessibility for an episode of DuckTales whose biggest significance for the series is that it's the mid-season finale, which for DuckTales usually means nothing? Maybe because they want to get as much audience reception and feedback as possible? Keep in mind this is all speculation, but I think there's enough here to at least entertain the idea of this being the Duck Crew's intention when crafting the special. Plus, it's an idea for a reboot with a lot of potential, and already a framework to show it works and there is demand for it, which is the main thing I wanted to talk about here. What would a Darkwing Duck reboot in the 2020s even look like? Well, one thing that's exciting about this idea is that it is ripe for satire. It's no secret that we are in an era of superhero oversaturation in our media. Film franchises with movies in the dozens, TV series that all exist in the same universe, from the comedic to the gritty. It's a treasure trove of jokes that everyone will get. While Darkwing Duck had a heart and identity of its own, it was also a shameless parody of several superhero staples. Heck, the Fearsome Five are basically all parodies of established comic book villains. I know Negaduck's color scheme is meant to contrast the colors of Darkwing's, but tell me he doesn't remind you of the Reverse Flash. One of the things I think went kind of underappreciated in The Dark Knight Returns was just how on point the satire of the gritty Nolan-era superhero flick was. It was funny because it was insanely accurate. And this shot from Let's Get Dangerous to the Rift's power enveloping the skyscraper feels oddly similar to the setting of the climax of The Avengers. Only difference is that the portal to another world is not in the sky. These writers know what's out there in the superhero genre these days, and they're ready to poke and prod it for comedy. But it's not only what a Darkwing reboot can gain from this age of expansive superhero media we're living in now. One of the things people loved about the show is what made it unique. Drake's attitude towards crime fighting, the realization that he's not very good at it to astounding comedic effect, the fact that he had an adopted daughter, etc. And something that's very interesting to me about Let's Get Dangerous is that it has a lot of detail in establishing Drake's routine and relationships that feels like it's planting the seeds to expand on later. Things like how he's friends with Fenton despite hating Gizmo Duck, which could pave the way for a lot of interesting scenarios, or that whole plot about St. Canard being crime-free now because of a recurring DuckTales character, but the episode ends with the gang being called to fight a crime. That could lead to the age-old question of, do people running around playing superhero attract more problems than they solve? That Launchpad makes it part of his daily routine to join Darkwing on crime fighting now, and of course, the different way Drake and Goslin's relationship is handled here. They aren't father and daughter yet, at least not technically, because there's still the possibility that Goslin's biological grandfather is still alive, just lost. So for now, they're crime-fighting partners. What would it be like for Goslin to become Drake's sidekick at his insistence? Will his feelings on that change as danger becomes more apparent and he possibly becomes her parent? If Dr. Weilmeyer isn't gone, where is he? And if he does come back, what then? In the age of animated shows being more exciting and challenging, with season-long story arcs, higher stakes, and more personal conflicts, everything we've seen so far could easily give Darkwing the upgrade he deserves. Not to mention the Duck Crew's continued push for positive, diverse representation would likely carry over into a Darkwing reboot. We've already seen that with Goslin. And if DuckTales is any indicator, that could only be a good thing. It felt like it left a lot of doors open to me, and not just where Let's Get Dangerous is concerned. Let's not forget Negaduck. I think Angana's mentioned on Tumblr at one point when someone asked him about Negaduck that this season was just so big that there wasn't room for him in season 3. But now we know that season 3 is the final season, so what did he mean by that? I can't imagine them foreshadowing something this exciting and not following through on it. Now yes, that could be a big bold-faced lie and we will see Negaduck before DuckTales concludes, but Angana's isn't Alex Hirsch. He's not cryptic, he's generally straightforward with his fans and followers, or at least as much as he can be without spoiling too much. It feels to me like there's a lot of purposeful dedication to establishing things about Darkwing Duck specifically. At this point, a good portion of DuckTales 2017 has been about reinventing DW and his team. Much more than the other Disney Afternoon characters who have popped up. More than some DuckTales characters. Unlike most of Disney's reboots and remakes, this is something people really want. When Disney Plus came out last year, people were rewatching the original series so much it was a trending topic on Twitter for a couple of days, and all of Darkwing's appearances in DuckTales have been met with critical and fan acclaim, with people rapidly growing very attached to these new versions of Drake and Goslin and Launchpad. That's partly why the whole Seth Rogen debacle doesn't worry me too much. DuckTales, and by extension Disney, has invested a lot into this version of Darkwing Duck. If this were any other remake announcement from Disney, then yes, I would be concerned concerned like I almost always am. But I just don't see Disney dropping the ball on this project if it goes ahead, when they've poured a lot of time, resources, and money into dedicated episodes to a character that, again, isn't a DuckTales character. You've got everything you need to guarantee at least 2 successful seasons, a reinvention you know works with high demand and tons of fans, a creative team that would probably be more than willing to sign on, and both new and old fans more than willing to empty their wallets for new Darkwing Duck t-shirts and plushies. This team knows what they're doing. Let them do what they do best. Because trust me when I say, we really want to see it at this point.
You wanna run, I'll run away with you. You wanna fly, there's nothing we can't do. You won't ever feel alone in the wind and rush. Oh yeah, dangerous is a danger to us. Think you and me could be dangerous.
This has been an eventful month or so for Disney Duck-related news, to say the least. When Let's Get Dangerous premiered and everyone was talking about how there's no way they can't make a Darkwing reboot at this point, one of the few reasons I was hesitant about that was because I didn't want the team to be taken away from DuckTales or stretched too thin. But knowing what we know now, I honestly can't think of many reasons to not follow through on what we've seen so far. At the time of recording, we don't know anything concrete. It's just a lot of rumors and speculation from sources and fans who are going to be starved for Disney Duck news in a few months' time. We've still got at least 5 more episodes of DuckTales to go, maybe 6 or 7, and with Fowl on the rise, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Darkwing and Goslin again before the series came to a close. But whether we'll see them after that is still yet to be seen. I think at least at this point, they know what we want. Now we just have to wait and see if we get it. So in the meantime, I want to ask you guys, if we did get a Darkwing Duck reboot, following up on what DuckTales has introduced us to, what would you like to see from it? Would you like to see the Fearsome Five proper, or maybe the Justice Ducks? Would you like to see characters like Honker and the Muddlepuss return? Would you like to see Dr. Wildmeyer return, and what would come from that? Should they bring in Morgana to spice things up with Darkwing, or just make Drake Pad canon already? Whatever you'd have in mind, let me know in those comments below. Me, I'd like to see an update on Time and Punishment. That'd be pretty sick. Oh, and a proper Gizmo Duck team up. I know Fenton lent him a hand before as himself, but I need these 2 heroes fighting side by side, willingly or reluctantly. I need it. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.